All right, so Tim Pool is one of my favorite personalities on YouTube, which is odd because he's not a libertarian at all. He favors quite a few leftist economic policies, as he himself has stated. But I think he has a great take on a lot of issues. I think he creates great content, gives a good analysis on things, and he's highly capable and rational. And I really do mean that sincerely. But I did take slight issue with something he said recently. He was making a video about this van he's converting into a mobile editing suite of sorts, and he was sort of marveling over capitalism, markets, and specialization, right? He makes videos, gets paid for them, then uses that compensation to pay someone else to do something he'd never be able to do on his own, which is to convert his van into this little living space, install a shower, set up a TV, install a bed, etc. And I think that's a fantastic thing to think about. It's something we really take for granted. Take, for example, an air conditioner unit in your window. You could give me 10 years and all the supplies I need, and I wouldn't be able to put that thing together. I don't know where the coils go. I don't know how to put together the air compressor. I'd be at a loss. But I could work for someone for a few hours at a half-decent wage, and I could go purchase this impossible technology for about $60 or so. Pretty amazing. Mother Nature's not treating you well, trying to sweat you out. You just flip a switch and you just solve the problem with just a few hours worth of wages. But anyway, Tim Pool is talking about this, and he sort of throws a few things in there that I wanted to address because I think it's important. He sort of gives a side note that although he thinks capitalism is amazing, he's not a laissez-faire capitalist and he doesn't like crony capitalism. Well, to that I say nobody does. You can take the most hardcore libertarian or anarcho-capitalists out there, they're highly unlikely to be in favor of any form of cronyism. Cronyism generally takes one of two forms. Either it's fraud, in which a private business knowingly lies and misleads you, takes your money, then cuts and runs while you're left high and dry. I've yet to meet or speak with any hardcore free marketer that thinks people should have no recourse if something like that is done to them. The other form of cronyism that you see far more often is when businesses get into bed with government. Now, this is a problem because of what differentiates government from every other organization that exists, especially in the US today, and that is their ability to initiate violence against peaceful, innocent people. Government does this on a constant basis. It's the lifeblood that allows it to exist. Government engages in activity that, if done by private individuals or private organization, society would never put up with it for 1 second. People too often make exemptions and warp the definition of actions for government, and this leads me to my next point, which is when Tim said he's not a big taxation is theft kind of person. Now, I really think he should rethink this. You could be in favor of taxation, light taxes, heavy taxes, whatever, but let's start on honest footing. Nothing changes the fact that taxation is without a doubt, inarguably, a form of theft. Just take a look at the definition. A compulsory contribution to state revenue, etc., yada yada, end quote. It uses the word compulsory, which is coercive by definition. It involves violence or the threat of violence. Do a little thought experiment. Describe taxation without using the word tax or government. It is money that is taken from you, whether you want it to be or not, and almost more importantly, you get next to no choice on how that money is spent and what that money funds. It could be something that you are vehemently opposed to your core. For example, war and bombing countries you've never heard of, or throwing people into cages because they had some weed on them. You have no choice. That money is taken from you by force, and if you refuse to pay what has been demanded of you, people with guns will eventually be sent to your property, and you will be thrown into a cage like an animal, and if you resist enough, they will kill you as they have done to others. Now, I didn't mention government once in what I just described. I never said government, I never said tax. If it was Walmart engaging in the behavior I just described, you would immediately see how that is absolutely, unambiguously, inarguably a form of theft. It's involuntary, it's largely unaccountable, and it has a constant and consistent threat of violence behind it all, and you have absolutely no choice and no recourse. It would take you all but 2 seconds to recognize it as theft. Now, calling it government and calling it taxation does not magically change it into something that is not theft. If I pull a gun on you, force you to give me your money, then I take a part of that money and maybe do something nice for you, perhaps you can be convinced that it was worth it because of the nice thing I did, but that does not change the fact that what I did was theft. If the best you can do is say, look at the nice things that person did with the money they took at gunpoint, then dare I say that it is still theft. And like I said, I respect Tim Pool. I think he's great. He's very smart, very rational, and I mean that sincerely. I'm not being patronizing. But he has an extremely large audience, and I, with my very small corner of the internet, thought it was appropriate to give a little pushback, despite the fact that his numbers absolutely eclipse mine. But you know, what are you going to do about that? But all in all, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is this. Tim Pool, you could be for taxation to an extent. You could do that, and you could say that you agree with taxes and you like what they do with taxes, even though I know that you did mention that you don't agree with everything they do with taxes. But you could refer to taxation as a necessary evil. That's fine. But it does not take away the fact that it is absolutely theft, and I think it's important that we start the conversation on honest footing. But anyway, that's all for now. Like and subscribe, and you take it easy.